For over 10 millennia, the galaxy knew order. Not peace through force, but peace through understanding. The Galactic Concord, a governing body of over 600 advanced species, had perfected diplomacy. Conflict was an ancient relic, something studied in historical archives. Disputes were settled through economic leverage, simulations, and interspecies courts. Warships existed, but mostly ceremonial, symbols of deterrence rather than tools of destruction. The species of the Concord had evolved beyond violence. Empathy, longevity, and reason defined galactic culture. The very concept of total war had become taboo, almost mythical. Empires had collapsed, alliances formed, and borders redrawn, all without bloodshed. To be advanced, they believed, was to be pacified. In this order, chaos had no place. Or so they thought. Then came humanity. The Concord observed Earth long before contact. What they saw was confusing. A young, loud species that thrived on friction. They moved fast, lived short lives, and behaved irrationally. Their histories were a timeline of war, revolution, and innovation born from crisis. Yet they climbed the technological ladder with reckless speed. Within a few centuries, they transitioned from combustion engines to orbital platforms, from analog signals to quantum networks. Contact was inevitable. Earth received the Concord's envoys with suspicion, curiosity, and eventually cooperation. Membership was offered once humans reached the required technological baseline. Most expected resistance. Instead, humanity accepted quickly, even eagerly. That alarmed some observers. Others dismissed the concern. After all, humans were still behind. Their fleets were primitive. Their biology limited. Their culture fragmented. But humanity didn't behave like any previous entrant. Where others took centuries to assimilate Concord principles, humans adapted in years. They didn't just integrate, they optimized. Trade systems, diplomatic protocols, neural translation matrices, all were absorbed, studied, and streamlined. Their AI systems outpaced predictions. Their social systems resisted homogenization. Most Concord species softened after integration. Humanity sharpened. They never abandoned their militaries. Even as the Concord assured them of peace, humans expanded their defense budgets. Their orbital stations, while compliant with Concord standards, carried unregistered modifications. Their colonies, while peaceful, were self-sufficient and heavily reinforced. These anomalies were noted, but explained away as remnants of Earth's violent past. No one thought they matter. One analyst, a Centauri sociopsychologist named Therwin, filed a report warning of latent cultural aggression embedded within human societal reflexes. He cited Earth's obsession with historical warfare, its entertainment media, its mythologizing of rebellion. His report was buried. The prevailing belief was that humanity would acclimate, just like everyone else. Besides, Earth was strategically insignificant. No rare minerals, no ancient relics, no threats. It was, to the Concord, a political footnote. They missed the signs. Human children were raised on tales of struggle. Their holidays celebrated revolts, victories, sacrifices. Their games simulated conflict. Their stories didn't worship peace, they glorified survival. Even in leisure, their minds danced with the concept of the enemy. While other species evolved from tribalism, humanity had weaponized it. Still, humans were polite. Cooperative. They built embassies, signed treaties, contributed data. They smiled at conferences. They shared genetic cures. But underneath, their gears never stopped turning. Their thinkers didn't forget Earth's history, they mined it. Their strategists didn't discard war, they redefined it. Their unity wasn't bred from fear, but from preparation. Not for conquest, but for inevitability. Most Concord members believed Earth's compliance was submission. It wasn't. It was study. Humanity had entered the galactic arena not to assimilate, but to understand the rules. And once they knew the rules, they started planning how to bend them. Their military doctrine remained active. Not visible, but active. Ghost networks operated outside Concord purview. Their corporations doubled as logistics providers and covert asset deployers. Their diplomats were often former intelligence officers. Nothing illegal. Nothing aggressive. But everything built for redundancy, defense, and rapid escalation. The average Concord citizen believed war was obsolete. The average human believed peace was temporary. The distinction was invisible until it mattered. Humanity never said they were dangerous. They said they were survivors. The Concord assumed survival was a passive concept. But Earth's definition was active, assertive, relentless. When tensions rose with the Kalari, a minor but politically aggressive species, most assumed Earth would defer. After all, the Concord always mediated. And Earth was new, outnumbered, diplomatically weak. The mining claim dispute was expected to fizzle out. But observers failed to ask why Earth valued those particular assets. They missed the fact that Earth had already mapped, secured, and fortified the region. They overlooked that the disputed zone held no significant Concord interest, but extensive human infrastructure. And more critically, they misunderstood the silence following the Concord's ruling against Earth. Humanity didn't protest. They didn't appeal. They didn't argue. They stopped talking. That silence wasn't retreat. It was preparation. A withdrawal not from defeat, but from protocol. The calm before rupture. Because in all the simulations, all the cultural analyses, all the assumptions, the Concord forgot one truth: humanity was not born into peace. It was forged in conflict. And conflict, for them, was not the end of civilization. It was the beginning. The Kalari made their move through legal ambiguity. On paper, they invoked Concord Clause 17C, Resource Dispute Arbitration. In practice, they saw Earth's claim on the Cygnus 6 belt as an opportunity to establish dominance over an untested species. The belt contained tritium-rich asteroids, valuable but not vital. Yet for Earth, it was the foundation of long-term independence in off-world fuel production. The Kalari's claim was thin but backed by senior Concord members who saw the humans as too new, too volatile, and too confident. The tribunal convened, ruled in favor of the Kalari, and declared all human operations on Cygnus 6 illegal. No warnings, no negotiation. Just an edict. The Concord expected Earth to comply, dismantle infrastructure, and transfer operational control. Most species in Earth's position would have complied immediately. Earth didn't respond. Instead, their Cygnus 6 facilities shut down transmissions entirely. No data. No evacuation. Just silence. Weeks passed. Then it happened. A Kalari enforcement ship entered Cygnus 6 orbit to assert jurisdiction. It vanished from sensors 32 minutes after arrival. Concord investigators found only radiation traces and fragmented hull plating embedded in asteroid debris. Official reports labeled it a malfunction. Unofficially, they knew it was a message. Earth's formal response followed. Violation of sovereign assets constitutes an act of aggression. Countermeasures initiated. Protocol vengeance activated within hours. A document long classified, unknown even to most of Earth's civilian governments, it authorized decentralized retaliation across all strategic domains: digital, orbital, colonial. Earth's leadership, unified under the UN's Security Directive, declared a strategic transition from diplomacy to resistance. No declaration of war. No media broadcasts. Just lock systems, redirected traffic, and black-flagged fleets mobilizing from deep space caches. The Concord attempted de-escalation. Envoys were sent. No return messages. Surveillance drones dispatched. All went dark near human-controlled sectors. Concord High Command didn't panic. They couldn't. Panic hadn't existed in their lexicon for centuries. Instead, they called an emergency vote on disciplinary action. The consensus: Earth would be placed under containment. They dispatched Fleet Group Theta, a multi-species force designed for high-pressure diplomatic enforcement. It arrived at Proxima Centauri. Found nothing. Human ships gone. Stations powered down. Civilian channels void. Then, one signal, a compressed data burst with no encryption, no obfuscation. It read asterisk. We remember who we were. You reminded us. Asterisk. That's when the data floods began. Concorde systems experienced cascading failures. Translation matrices collapsed. Star charts glitched. Long-range sensors returned mirrored readings. Earth's AI systems had infiltrated shared Concorde infrastructure through commerce protocols, medical updates, even entertainment distributions. Years of unnoticed access used not to steal, but to map vulnerabilities. Theta Fleet's command structure fragmented in less than 12 minutes. Internal targeting systems activated emergency subroutines that had no origin code. Hull sealing protocols failed on ships without visible damage. Escape pods launched mid-transit. Some vessels detonated as fusion regulators received reverse polarity signals. No human ships had fired. Yet 4 capital cruisers were destroyed. The Concorde demanded answers. Earth gave none. What followed was classified under Concorde emergency directives. But witnesses recorded fragments. Human stealth corvettes, once dismissed as prototypes, began coordinated strikes on logistical relays. Fuel depots vanished in precise microburst detonations. Communications satellites rerouted traffic into dead zones. Terraforming platforms on Concorde-registered planets shut down and reactivated with human firmware. What terrified the Concorde wasn't firepower. It was control. Humanity's operations didn't escalate erratically. Every move was timed, exact, minimal. This wasn't rage. It was calculation. For a species accused of being emotional, their campaign showed surgical coldness. Alien military analysts were baffled. Concorde doctrine was built on prediction models. Human behavior defied modeling. Where others avoided high-risk moves, humans embraced them. Losses didn't deter them, they adapted. Their fallback points weren't retreats, they were traps. Their colonies weren't just habitats, they were arsenals camouflaged as farmland. Terraform Station R9, assumed to be agricultural, launched a coordinated drone swarm into Concorde shipping lanes, disabling 27 transports without fatalities. Hours later, it self-destructed in a containment implosion to prevent capture. All personnel were volunteers. None attempted escape. They transmitted one word before detonation, asterisk. Hold. Asterisk. The galaxy began to understand. The humans had never stopped preparing. Their compliance had been observation. Their integration had been reconnaissance. Their cooperation had been camouflage. And when the moment arrived, they didn't hesitate. They executed. The Kalari, once emboldened, requested emergency protection. Earth responded with absolute focus, crippling Kalari central systems within 20 minutes. Government archives were copied, translated, and publicly leaked to every Concorde member. Civil unrest broke out on Kalari worlds as citizens saw proof of corruption, trade exploitation, and illegal manipulation of tribunal votes. Earth hadn't started a war. They had responded to an insult with annihilation-grade precision. Concorde Command began drafting a full mobilization plan. But privately, they doubted its success. Human escalation was unpredictable, unrelenting, and unrepentant. Their tactics ignored tradition. Their doctrine embraced sacrifice. Their silence was no longer uncertainty. It was strategy. Concorde commanders anticipated rebellion. What they didn't anticipate was doctrine built to dismantle empires. Humanity didn't fight for territory, they fought to expose vulnerability. Every tactic broke precedent. Alien fleets, engineered for symmetry and precision, faced an enemy without a pattern. Human ships didn't follow formation logic. They struck from angles Concorde sensors never prioritized. Heat signatures were masked. Emissions suppressed. Targets appeared where no movement had been tracked. Then vanished. Human strategy didn't aim to overwhelm. It aimed to disrupt. Instead of massed firepower, they deployed multi-swarm drone salvos. Instead of planetary sieges, they triggered orbital blackouts. Military outposts reported civilian vessels appearing harmless, until proximity subroutines activated concealed turrets, deployed autonomous boarding units, and wiped Central Command decks in under 30 seconds. Their weaponry wasn't superior. It was adaptive. Guns could switch fire modes mid-combat. Infantry armor reconfigured depending on environment, light, or gravity. Entire squads altered tactics mid-engagement without command input. Artificial battlefield logic systems, built off decentralized human-designed neural cores, made autonomous calls before Concord strategists could process the situation. Alien command structures collapsed under human interference. Coordination grids jammed with recycled signal ghosts. Internal systems triggered safety protocols during combat, mistaking human interference for system failure. When Concord technicians tried to analyze the breach, they found code embedded in decades-old firmware patches, silent until activated. Human soldiers didn't seek open combat. They infiltrated. Not just physically, but ideologically. Concord Data Archives reported. Psychological incursions. Human information warfare deployed historical broadcasts into enemy civilian networks. Footage of Earth's own wars, Dresden, Grozny, Aleppo, Fallujah, were translated and overlaid with messages like asterisk. This is what we survived. What have you? Asterisk morale among Concord auxiliary forces plummeted. They learned that when a human unit lost, they recorded everything. Within days, the next strike corrected every failure. Adjustments came not in cycles, but in hours. They rotated battlefield AI routines, updated combat nanocode, altered fleet behavior at speed that defied strategic forecasting. Worse, humans didn't fear loss. The concept of casualties was processed differently. Not as deterrent but fuel. Dead crews were immortalized in operational data. Their last seconds turned into tactical lessons, disseminated across every human force. Their deaths weren't sacrifices. They were software updates. Concord's species bred for consensus couldn't adapt. Their training emphasized cohesion, hierarchy, preservation. Humanity engineered contradiction. Subunits disobeyed Central Command when advantage demanded it, and succeeded. Their command protocols encouraged real-time disobedience if logic favored mission success. They didn't malfunction. They evolved mid-conflict. A critical turning point emerged during the Centauri Cascade Offensive. 3 Concord fleets formed a blockade around a suspected human supply chain. Standard procedure ensured complete interdiction. But the blockade dissolved in under 8 hours. Human transports bypassed detection by quantum anchoring to dead celestial bodies, then launched micro-warp jumps inside the fleet perimeter, too close to react. By the time the blockade responded, human marines had seized 2 carriers from within. Power cores were detonated by human teams still on board, who had already transmitted all technical schematics to Earth Command before death. No one understood the psychology. Concord's species saw peace as evolution. Humanity saw peace as an intermission. Every culture assumed strength came from technological dominance. Earth taught that dominance came from discomfort, from pressure, from being forced to adapt. Alien fleets were pristine. Human fleets were mismatched, modular, cobbled together from decades of shifting designs. But every piece functioned with purpose. A salvaged plasma cannon mounted on a converted mining freighter wasn't a weakness, it was bait. One ship sacrificed itself to pull fire, exposing a weak flank that didn't exist in Concord tactical planning. Within seconds, human cruisers broke through and split the blockade. Earth used history as blueprint. They resurrected outdated tactics. Convoy dispersals. Pincer movements. Even trench logic adapted to zero-G. Combined with predictive AI routines, old strategies became lethal innovations. The Concorde had evolved beyond thinking like soldiers. Humanity never stopped. Psychological operations amplified the chaos. Human broadcasts looped enemy ship names, casualty lists, intercepted crew comms, then overlaid them with the same phrase, asterisk. You're already forgotten. Asterisk Concorde units began surrendering before engagement. Their cultural doctrine had no equivalent for humanity's weaponized disregard for defeat. They realized Earth's objective wasn't dominance. It was disruption. Each human engagement left communications altered, infrastructure corrupted, software embedded with cascading logic bombs. Even retreating fleets spread infections, viruses encoded in compressed light pulses, triggering only when relayed through Concorde mainframes. Humanity didn't conquer sectors. They destabilized them. Worlds weren't seized, they were rendered unusable by enemy forces. Bioengineered moss spread over fusion cores, disrupting magnetic balance. Orbital mirrors blinded observation decks. Rogue AI fragments transmitted encrypted threats into enemy family networks, not to kill, but to instill fear. The galaxy wasn't prepared for an enemy that didn't want what others did. Humanity didn't seek territory or tribute. They sought certainty. If provoked, retaliation wasn't proportional. It was absolute. This wasn't war. It was redefinition. They assumed it would slow. No species had ever escalated indefinitely. Burnout, logistical collapse, civil unrest, these were constants. Humanity defied them. Their momentum didn't fade, it sharpened. Operations once thought experimental became standard. Concorde analysts struggled to track patterns. There were none. Only intent. Operation Revenant marked the shift. It wasn't announced. It began with synchronized power failures across 9 Concorde sectors. Within minutes, comms relays collapsed. Traffic grids malfunctioned. Civilian data centers looped encrypted code laced with Earth's oldest wartime propaganda. Concorde security AI tried to override but crashed upon contact. Each network, compromised for months, now executed latent functions designed solely for disruption. Then came physical strikes. Human fleets emerged from uncharted voids, navigated with blind jumps impossible under Concorde physics. Their targeting was precise: supply lanes, refueling stations, tactical hubs. They bypassed defenses, hit cores, and vanished. Not a single civilian target struck. But every military asset crippled. In 3 hours, 300 Concorde installations ceased operation. Ships rerouted to respond met their own echoes. Human code manipulated navigation systems, creating phantom distress calls. Entire fleets drifted into ambush zones carefully designed weeks earlier. Concorde Command issued retraction orders. But most never reached their recipients. Human jammers, buried in forgotten sectors, blocked them in real time. Alien governments demanded a ceasefire. Earth's only response: a mass data stream showing archival footage, World War battlefields, nuclear shadows, orbital debris from past Earth conflicts. No threats, no speeches. Just history. The implication was clear. Humanity hadn't changed. They had waited. Internal panic gripped Concorde leadership. The illusion of superiority dissolved. Thousands of years without war had dulled readiness. Simulations couldn't replicate fury. Models failed to predict choices made not through logic, but conviction. No contingency accounted for enemies willing to lose everything to prove a point. Concorde forces attempted counterassaults. One armada reached the asteroid belt outside Seoul. They never entered. Automated defense systems activated, satellite-based particle disruptors, invisible minefields, gravity anchor traps. 2 dreadnoughts shattered mid-approach, their hulls folded inward as if pulled by planetary mass. No humans in sight. The few engagements that reached human space ended in silence. Concorde Marines encountered resistance unlike anything recorded. Urban colonies were rigged with layered defense lines, civilian responders embedded with military implants, adaptive terrain that responded to movement signatures. Combat AI adjusted tactics per opponent species. Nothing was left to chance. Concorde morale fractured. Some species considered secession. Others pulled forces to protect their own worlds, abandoning collective command. Earth exploited this. Not through invasion, but persuasion. Disillusioned Concorde races received anonymous data drops, files exposing manipulation, classified tribunal edits, covert economic coercion. The truth broke unity faster than weapons. Human broadcasts began appearing on alien networks. Simple, direct, asterisk. You believed peace was safety. You forgot it must be earned. Asterisk entire sectors turned neutral. A few requested human advisors. Some offered alliance. Earth declined control but shared infrastructure upgrades. Influence grew without conquest. The Kalari, who initiated the chain reaction, were systematically dismantled. Not with genocide, but with exposure. Internal documents, hidden correspondences, trade records, all leaked. Their people turned on leadership. Riots. Resignations. Collapse. Earth didn't gloat. They remained silent as the Kalari state imploded under the weight of its own decisions. Concord Command, desperate, convened one final solution: overwhelming force. A fleet of unmatched scale was launched, 100 ships per sector. Full mobilization. Burn protocol authorized. Civilians warned to prepare for engagement. It never mattered. The moment fleet synchronization peaked, Earth triggered the apex lock. Buried within Concord command chains were fragments of old code, planted via decades of cooperation. They activated simultaneously. Control panels failed. Fuel lines reversed. Internal monitors displayed only one message: asterisk. Your piece was purchased. We refund the cost. Asterisk then black. 40% of the fleet lost control. 30 crashed or self-destructed. The rest abandoned mission, fearing further compromise. Concord's final hand never played. Not because it was beaten. Because it was disabled. After that, silence. Not retreat, absence. Humanity ceased advancement. No more attacks. No more messages. Ships returned to orbit. Satellites powered down. Comms reopened. Earth issued one statement, asterisk. Terms available. Discussion open. Memory permanent. Asterisk. They hadn't destroyed the Concorde. They had demonstrated futility. Concorde assembly collapsed into debate. Some wanted retribution. Others demanded surrender. The old consensus, peace by stagnation, no longer applied. They faced a truth none wished to admit: Earth hadn't changed the rules. Earth had reminded them of the rules they chose to forget. Across the galaxy, the message was unspoken but understood. Earth didn't conquer. Earth corrected. A century passed. The galaxy never returned to what it was. The Concorde no longer existed. It fractured under its own illusions. Earth never replaced it. No empire, no throne, no galactic capital. Humanity refused central rule, offering instead a new framework, the Soul Accord. A network, not a hierarchy. Membership voluntary. Participation enforced only through consequence. It was not about power. It was about deterrence. Species once confident in isolation now understood risk. Borders still existed, but only as agreements. The Soul Accord didn't claim systems, it protected choices. Interference brought response. Not immediate, not loud, but final. No one questioned the memory. Everyone remembered what happened when Earth was underestimated. Military academies across species began restructuring. Human historical conflicts became primary study material. Not for admiration, but necessity. Tactics once dismissed as primitive were reevaluated as foundational. From asymmetric raids to scorched earth logistics, alien officers learned to simulate unpredictability. Few mastered it. None ignored it. Civilians adapted faster. Earth's culture flooded foreign worlds. Not through pressure. Curiosity did the work. Films, books, strategy games, old documentaries, shared freely. Not propaganda. Just identity. And it spread. Children on Aeltheon recited Churchill speeches. Students on Vidak debated Earth's constitution. Colonies orbiting twin stars quoted resistance leaders from nations that no longer existed. What began as exposure became influence. Not domination, but reflection. Species began asking what made Earth different. Why they responded as they did. The answers varied, but one theme remained: endurance. Humanity didn't rise because they were smarter or stronger. They endured because they adapted to suffering without losing direction. Technology changed as well. Earth's brutal engineering philosophy caught on. Rugged, modular, failure-tolerant designs replaced fragile Concorde aesthetics. Ships now carried redundant systems. Defensive grids planned for the improbable. Civilian stations learned how to disappear from scans. Infrastructure was no longer decorative, it was hardened. Economics shifted. Concorde's dependency on centralized logistics had failed catastrophically. Earth's decentralized models proved resilient. Trade networks diversified. Backup supply routes established in forgotten sectors. Redundancy became doctrine. Survival planning replaced market optimization. Earth's chaos had rewritten stability. Even philosophy wasn't spared. Old Concorde values, predictability, diplomacy, consensus, remained, but were tempered by pragmatism. Treaties now included fallback clauses for collapse. Dispute resolution protocols acknowledged non-compliance scenarios. Negotiation assumed the possibility of bad faith. It was no longer seen as cynical. It was seen as realistic. The most visible change, however, was cultural posture. Before, peace was expected. Now, it was maintained. Species trained in rhetoric also trained in resilience. Diplomatic fleets carried not just translators, but shield arrays. Conversation and caution traveled side by side. No more assuming unity. Every alliance had teeth. And yet Earth didn't exploit it. They didn't expand aggressively. They refused tribute. No resource demands, no mandatory integration. Soul remained open but uninviting. Tourists were screened. Access limited. Most systems preferred to learn from afar. Earth didn't discourage it. Their stance remained consistent. We're not coming for you, but don't come for us. A few species tried to imitate human behavior. Most failed. They misunderstood intent. Humanity wasn't aggressive by nature, they reacted with overwhelming force when backed into corners. Others tried to provoke Earth into demonstrating weakness. They received none. Only silence. Earth's strength no longer needed to be shown. It had been proven once, and that was enough. Human veterans from the war became advisors, not conquerors. They assisted rebuilding efforts across damaged sectors. Their presence didn't comfort, but it stabilized. They brought no armies. Just knowledge. How to fortify. How to decentralize. How to disappear when diplomacy fails. The lessons were paid for in blood, and shared without conditions. Alien historians documented everything. Some glorified the war as a necessary correction. Others called it the galaxy's greatest shame. A few, the wisest, called it inevitable. The galaxy had stagnated too long. Progress without conflict had made the old order fragile. Earth didn't destroy it. They revealed its rot. The ripple effects didn't stop. Entire sectors evolved new political theories. Autonomy over centralization. Collective readiness over passive trust. Education became survival-oriented. Students studied disaster recovery before theoretical mathematics. Simulation chambers now included wartime scenarios. Not for glamour. For preparedness. Even religion changed. Doctrines on distant worlds began referencing Earth stories as moral lessons. Not worship, but recognition. A species that turned pain into policy, that suffered endlessly without surrendering its identity. To many, Earth became a symbol, not of dominance, but of will. Some feared a second wave. It never came. Earth had made its point once. They had no interest in another. That restraint, more than any victory, cemented their legacy. Power restrained becomes legend. And legend, remembered long enough, becomes truth. The galaxy moved forward, but never blindly again. Humanity had arrived not to rule, but to remind. And the reminder never faded.